as time goes on, I get more and more tired of this shitty, bollocky gender wars. Gentlemen, we are, and you better wake up, we are in a gender war between men and women. There is a war out there. There is a battle of the sexes for control. Every day, we are being hit. If you don't capitulate to women and their desires today, small, middle-sized, big, you will be seen as a sexist, as a person who hates women. Well, I'll tell you one thing now, as I get older, it's not becoming difficult to dislike women and their behaviour of what is going on today. I don't give a fuck about what's going on in the Middle East. Because what's going on in the Middle East, if you really look at it, is that the Arab man, if you really think about it, has it right. He is controlling his females because he knows how women behave. That's why he has them so tightly under control. From what they wear from head to toe, who they go out when they want to go out to be taken somewhere. That's why it's only recently that the Saudi Arabia recently allowed women to drive for the first time. Was there a need? No, they didn't have to. But they capitulated because their views now, they're trying to move away from the dominance of oil, and maybe they're going to try and move more into tourism. They're opening up cinemas there in there, and there are women who are complaining that the women are separated from the boys or other men, and which I don't see what the problem is. You go to the cinema, if there's all women in there, you should be happy. You should be grateful. Again, it's constant complaints. Here we have a scientist suspended for comments. I saw this as I was floating around, and I thought, this has got to be another gender issue to do with men and women again. This was only 6 hours ago. A senior scientist who said physics was invented and built by men, which is correct. He's telling the truth, but it doesn't matter. You see, today we have people who are mentally ill in society. They're barely functioning. They get up in the morning, they fuel themselves on coffee and croissants, especially coffee, very, very strong coffee, to keep themselves sane, to keep themselves moving. They go on ridiculously punishing sort of health regimes. They get up early in the morning at 5 o'clock. They get down to the gym to work for an hour, like a mental case. Then they get themselves ready, rush to work by 8 o'clock. Then they have a very light meal of salad and, to keep their weight down. And then they go for, but during that time, they're having coffee through that time, drinking coffee. Then when the evening comes, they then, depending on how far they are from where their office is, go for a jog back home. So it could be 1 mile, 2 miles. That's their exercise, and they go home and they run home to get home. Okay, so that they can then start reading what's on Twitter and Facebook and start bitching about men, how men are hate women, and they're not doing enough. Nothing's being done enough for women. Women are consistently oppressed in the West. All the stuff that you see around you, the buildings built by men, got electrocuted for it, got blown up by it from gas, got poisoned. Men who go down the mine, whose lungs are filled up with dirt and dust from digging holes and collecting coal. Building sites where men are breathing in dust every single day they're on site. But nobody cares. You see, they want that air-conditioned office to be built so that women can move in, temperature controlled for them. But you see, even then they have to bitch. Oh, the air conditioning system has been proven to be sexist because men like the air conditioning to be a bit lower because men sweat, whereas women so-called perspire. The solution is very simple. Put men in their own office with their own air conditioning, put women in their own office with their own air conditioning. But you see, the thing is, they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that because women want to be in the same office as men. They want to be watching what men are doing. I think women get pleasure out of being annoying and provocative. They want to be in an environment with the opposite sex, just for the sake of it. Because if you exclude them, you hate women. But if you put them in a separate room, like they do in Saudi Arabia, I think Dell has a call center, not call center, sorry, a center in Saudi Arabia that is specifically for women. So there's one building for women and one building for men. So the women that are in there are working on building software, they're working on building computers, and they're computer engineers. And so surely that's a good thing, isn't it? They can work without the feeling of supposedly men will get in their way and tell them that they're doing this wrong. They will be able to do it the way they want it. They've been trained to do it. And they'll get more experience from working from that. So when they go to a job that requires a woman only, that woman will be fully trained to deal with their computer problems, their networking issues and whatever. I think that's fantastic. You know. But that kind of thing is too restrictive for women in the West. That's why some of them are railing against this. No, they don't want that. But what they want is they want women to be in full control. You see, it's not enough that men have died, literally, World War I, World War II, fighting to suppress and keep away dangerous people for women. It's no good. All the inventions, the Hoover, the cooker, the washing machine, the drying machine, the fridge, have all been invented, I believe, by men for the benefit of women. So that they can, then it made it easier for them. The microwave came along, made it even easier for people to make ready meals straight out of the fridge. Here we have a gentleman who has stated the obvious. But you mustn't be allowed to state the obvious, especially when it comes to white men. You mustn't state the obvious. Mustn't. It's not only sexist, it's racist. So this professor's been suspended with immediate effect. With immediate effect. No discussion. He's given his marching orders, so he's at home now. He will be sacked. He'll get his pension, and he won't have any support from anybody other than myself and from real men. Even now, you've got to be careful if you're the kind of guy that's doing the pumping and dumping. You will be chased after. There are already stories of guys now who are in a quick relationship with someone and they've said, well, I'm calling it a day. Literally, they've been with them for a couple of weeks or whatever period. A friend of mine was with a woman for about a week. And on his last day, the woman suddenly said, "Oh, have you got children?" And he said, "I've got a child, one child." And she said, "Oh, one of my rules, one of my stipulations is I have no relationship with women, with a guy who has any kids or children." And my mate said, "Not a problem. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm really finished with this relationship. I don't think it's going to go any further. So I'm happy to sort of just call it a day." And he left. And this woman was calling him consistently. She then sent a text and said, "If you don't get contact with me, I've got your card details, got your mobile phone. I will tell them that you did this to me or you did that." There were threats made to him if he didn't contact her. And he just texted her and said, "Go on then. I've got your text of you threatening me." He's not heard anything since. But there are stories of this of guys, especially if they dump women first. Women don't like to be dumped. You don't dump women. They want to be the ones that dump you. You don't dump women. Lewis Hamilton said that women are the most beautiful things on this planet. Someone then said, a mangina said, "Oh, thing." This was on Twitter. Thing. Women are things, are they? There is this constant scrutiny of your language by these mentally ill bastards in this society. Constant scrutiny. This is an example. This gentleman has been sacked. Sorry, has been suspended. But he will be sacked. Or he'll be forced to retire. Let's carry on. So, where are we? He said in comments first reported by the BBC's Pellard, gosh, stupid bloody names, that physics was becoming sexist against men. The institution said on Monday it was suspending the professor pending an investigation. It stated that his presentation was unacceptable. The organisation always strives to carry out its scientific mission in a peaceful and inclusive environment. When they say inclusive environment, as long as there is a high proportion or even the majority of women, That's inclusive. Just like universities are inclusive. 60% of women, 40% of men. That's inclusive. The statement reads, calling the presentation contrary to the organisation's code of conduct. The organisation said it was unfortunate the views of the scientist who works at a collaborating university risks overshadowing the important message and achievement of the event. There was a story that I just saw, but I don't think it's there. So the professor who regularly works at the organisation was speaking at a workshop in Geneva on gender and high-energy physics. He told his audience of young, predominantly female scientists that his results proved that physics is not sexist against women today, that is. And who cares if it was before? I mean, the great minds of men were the ones that pushed the physics of those times. The instruments that were designed and made so that certain women can produce these so-called results were designed and made by men. However, the truth does not matter, which is correct, because it's part of a political battle coming from outside. Exactly. Which is the political battle fronted by the evil feminist movement, the religion of the feminists are the one that's dictating how the West's move forward. It's as simple as that. I mean, man is the perfect working machine when it comes to building a society. Man have energy, ingenuity, skill, the speed, but the most important thing, the ability to take risks. Some women have this, but very, very few. Very few. So men take all the risks, literally all the risks. Why aren't there more female electricians out there? This is a job that women could do without any problem. They can take the course, learn how to be an electrician, go onto a building site with an electrician, work with an electrician for a period of months until they get confident that they can work on their own. Register with the association, and then you can do sort of sign your own jobs off. Go and do light changes, socket changes, running new cables in, you name it. They can. What's the problem? We need to see more female electricians. Plumbing work. Women can do plumbing work. Why don't we see more female plumbers? I was on a course, doing my domestic electrician's course, and I saw a girl who was outside sweating from head to toe. It was because it was a sunny day, doing bricklaying. So, if we can see women doing bricklaying, why can't we see more? She was the only girl on the course. Why wasn't there more? Why aren't we seeing more female plasterers? You could have 2 or 3 women working on a building site, doing plastering, doing painting. women can paint. But it seems to me that these women seem to want to do photographing, painting pictures. They don't want to do the really dirty, smelly, dangerous work. Leave it to the men to do. But at the same time, we need to complain. There aren't enough women in those jobs. We need to see more women cleaning out on the streets. We need to see women female dustbin men. Don't see them. I think I've seen one. Why aren't there more? Getting up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. But women are very proud. I was speaking to a guy who's a landlord, and I was putting some CCTV camera in the premises, and there was a particular girl. I think she was from Romania, and she was working in the city of London, and she was a manager, and she was earning 60 grand a year, and she was about 22. No, sorry, she was about 23, 24. And it's like, she just kept on going. I'm a manager in the city, and I deal with high-end copyright, this and that, and all sorts of nonsense. I don't know what she was doing. But she's earning 60 grand a year. 60 grand a year. They will always, I don't know why women spend their time consistently complaining. And yet this girl was grumpy, really grumpy, which is not surprising because she was getting up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to get herself ready, and then to, get herself ready to go to work. So she was, going to bed at 10 o'clock. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, go to bed at 1 o'clock, getting up at 4:30 or whatever it is, get herself ready to go to work, to get there by 8 o'clock. So, it's hard. I'll tell you this now, when I was working for my last firm, I used to have to get up at 5 o'clock so that I could, bath and have a cup of tea and get myself ready. And then I was out the door at 5 to 6. Luckily for me, I only had to go downstairs and across the little yard, and there was a bus stop. So literally at 6 o'clock, generally the bus would turn up, 69, take me up to Wood Green. But at the time I was working in the Exchange, so there was a little office somewhere in the back area that I could, once I was there, I got there by sort of 7 o'clock into the building. I was then able to go have a good sleep until about 8:15. Because I used to have to log on at 8:30 to pick up my work. But anyway, let's get back to this because I'm waffling on. He produced a series of graphs which he claimed showed that women were hired over men, whose research was cited more by other scientists in their publications, which is an indication of higher quality. I don't know how that can be an indication of higher quality. I think it's more of a case of gender, you've got to pick female science, work as a matter of course. A lot of it must be gibberish. A few times when women have come through in the sciences. Like today now, it's seen as, oh, must all the women must be scientists. All the women, the quality of work must be superb. Really? I've yet to see it. He also presented data that he claimed showed that male and female researchers were equally cited at the start of their careers, but men scored progressively better as their careers progressed. And that's because some of these women, not all of them, probably, either get married, have children, and even if they're not, even if they're lesbians, even lesbians are now having children as well. So how do you deal with it then when you've got two lesbians with a kid, or two or three kids? Which one of them stays home? It doesn't really matter then because they're both women. The discrimination against men is not a problem. It only occurs against women, especially white women. But this is what this is all about. Forget any other creed. It's white women who are pissed off about this. Discrimination against men. Mosley, killed in World War. I don't know what that is. Oxford University extends exam time for women's benefit. Let's see if we can see that. Oxford Uni extends Oxford University extended exam times. Let's have a look at that. Here we go. Wow. Oxford University extended exam times to improve women's grade. Let's look at this one because I think this is Fox News. This is let's go through this. Right, here we go. Daily Telegraph. Oxford University extends exam times for women's benefit. A science teacher had sex with pupil on plane before telling him he had made her pregnant. Wow. Wow. Science teacher, that is. That's a woman. Oxford University exam times. This was in February of 2018. Were increased in a bid to improve. Hold on a minute. Let's see this again. Oxford University exam times were increased in a bid to improve the low scores of women. It has emerged. Really? Are you serious? I thought women were the new dolphins of the world. That secretly they will be the savior of the world because women were secretly the more intelligent of men. Wow. Let's read through this. Very interesting. Students taking maths and computer science examinations in the summer of 2017, were given an extra 15 minutes to complete their papers after Dons ruled that female candidates might be more likely to be adversely affected by time pressure. That's just... Does that make any sense to anybody? These people are supposed to be the upper echelons of high intelligence. And then they say that they have to increase the time because of its pressure on girls. Isn't that what it's supposed to be about? You are given a set amount of questions that you have to complete within a set amount of time. If you don't complete it within that set amount of time, that is your problem. And so the questions that you didn't complete, okay, don't get added onto your exam because you weren't able to do them. I mean, the thing is, if you're going to increase the time, but increase the time for everybody, not just for women. I mean, but I suppose if you increase the time for men, before you know it, you'll be increasing it from a 2-hour exam to a 4-hour exam or something like ridiculous like that, because you'll just keep increasing the time and hope that women will be able to do this exam in 4 hours, because they'll be able to spend so much time on each question. But they shouldn't. Anyway, let's carry on. There was no change to the length or difficulty of the questions. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I mean, if it's 2 paragraphs, the question, or 3 paragraphs, okay, or the question was really, really difficult. If you've got an hour to do, 40 questions, very difficult questions, you get on with it. It was the first time such steps were taken. In previous years, the percentage of male students awarded first-class degrees was double that of women, and in 2016, the Board of Examiners suggested that the department make changes to improve women's grades. Holy God Almighty! Every single day, the goalposts are consistently moved in favour of women. Every single day. More and more affirmative action are blatantly done. Where is this equality that feminists keep talking about? Why are they not protesting against this kind of nonsense? It's like the Asians in America, who are quite rightly pissed that they are penalized from going to certain universities because they have to get a certain score, like a certain score that is like 200 or more points more than a black person, and so on and so on. And what they're saying is that's wrong. They want to be able to. I mean, look, they're only 6% of the population in America at the moment. In universities they're quite obviously high. And I suppose some people are worried about that they will literally be the dominant in campuses. Look at Google, for instance. 69% of its staff is men. It would have been higher, but because of affirmative action. But 40% of I think it's are Asian. Something 42%. The total male population in Google is 69%. So that's 31% of women. Okay, this is not good enough. They want parity. They want 50-50 or 60-40. Wonder what will happen if Google are forced to do the 60-40. Will they still be number one? I think Yahoo has a high percentage of women in Yahoo. Doesn't seem to have done much to sort out its fortunes. Anyway, I mean, I think this is just an incredibly blatant discrimination. I mean, it's bad enough it is in the universities where at the moment, you've got a population of 60% of women. Nothing has been done. Nothing has been done to address this problem, to bring it into parity. No, nothing. However, despite the intention being to lessen gender disparities, the main effect of the time increase appears to have been an increase in the number of 2-1s overall, with two figures falling. Men continue to be awarded more first-class degrees than women in the two subjects. Jesus Christ. A university spokesman defended the change as academically demanding and fair. How is that? Oh. And noted that while 39% of female mathematicians achieved first-class degrees compared to 47%, women's scores had improved year on year. So even though this is a figure of 39, that's nearly 40%, they're literally only 7% behind. But we don't know what the percentage of women that are in for this figure of 39 in Oxford University. 47% achieved by men. Top 10 universities for first-class degrees: Imperial College London, Oxford University, it's going to be, and Cambridge. They're all going to be very difficult. The lengthening of exams was welcomed by some female students, of course, because World University rankings top 10: Oxford, Cambridge, CIT, Stanford University, MIT, wow. And then you've got Harvard University. Where's Yale? Yale's not there. Princeton. Britain is doing very well. 1, 2, 3 colleges that are in the top 10. But 1, 2, 3, 4. University of Chicago, really? 5 American universities. Okay. Whoever this person is, undergraduate representative of Oxford Women in Computer Science, said, "I am uneasy about schemes to favour one gender over another. But here we go. But I'm happy when people see gaps between groups of people who should not reasonably have such gaps, such as between genders, race, or class, and take that as a starting point to think about the kinds of people they unintentionally leaving behind. What complete fucking bollocks. We are moving towards a communist state in the West if we're not careful. Okay, where men will be the underachievers on purpose. So even if you get men that are, because this is what the feminist movement wants. It's not about just getting in control. They want to subjugate men for 150,000 years. For so-called revenge. Once they've subjugated men for 150,000 years, they will then be happy to be equal, share the so-called power equally between the genders. But it's not going to work out that way. It's not going to work out that way. Because real men, not the manginas, not the soya boys, okay, real men will stand up eventually and say, this is enough. We can't have this nonsense. They will go about their own way. The MGTOW movement is growing, and it's highlighting this kind of stupid nonsense. Okay. If these grades, the university spokesman defended the changes as academically demanding and unfair and noted that while 39% of women achieve first-class degrees compared to 47%, is that again due to gender bias? I mean, I can't see what the problem is if there is literally very little 39 to 47. Why can't the women push themselves up to that percentage? I just don't know what the problem is. This article's original headline, Oxford gives women more time to pass exam, has been changed to further clarify that although exam times have been extended specifically to help women do better, all students will benefit from the extra time allowed. Right, so what they're saying is, but the point was, it was originally done to give women more time to do the exam. So what I said before was I assumed it was only giving women the extra time, but apparently the extra time, I think it's 15 minutes or something like that, is also given equally to the male students if they need it as well. But the point still stands. If the original reason why they gave the 15 minutes is because women weren't completing the papers, because they weren't capable of dealing with working under pressure. I mean, there are times when I've done exams in the past and I could have done with an extra 10, 15, 20 minutes just to finish off those few questions that I didn't do. If you've got an extra 15, 20 minutes, wait, half an hour. So an hour that should be two hours, and you get an extra half an hour on top. Okay. That massively relieves the pressure from you, which means, are you really capable of working under a high pressure environment where accuracy is required? Okay. Or working in an office environment where you've got to deal with very demanding people, okay, and you can't use your sexuality to get around the situation. You've got to be professional all down the line. I think there's a lot of men are waking up to, we are in the matrix. We live in a matrix. For instance, the standards. If you slap a woman, if a woman slaps a man in the middle of the street, say in Oxford Street, not one person will do anything. People will look, and they'll even think it's funny. Especially idiot youths, guys. But if the guy was to do the same thing to the girl, he would be in hospital with the amount of manginas that would jump in. This notion that you should never hit a woman, or you should never hit a girl, is women know about this and they use it to their advantage, both outside and inside the home. The reason why domestic violence occurs is because of women. Women are the ones that start it. Men are the ones that finish it. Because what usually happens is that women start off with nagging, you're useless, you're this, you're that, you're not doing anything for me. And depending on the temperament of some guys, literally will not take that nonsense. They'll take it up to a situation, but then they will turn and deal with the situation at hand and lay down the law. And some women don't like the law being laid down. And they push back. And when they push back, the guy will push back. Some don't want to, but they feel that that's the only way to control a particular person that they're with. And it escalates and escalates, where he then comes to the point where he overpowers her both verbally and physically. But a woman called Erin Privy has said there has not been enough research done on how domestic violence supposedly starts. She believes it started by the woman. A lot, not all of them, but a good proportion, because she said, if you see many of the women, this Irving Purvey was a woman, I can't pronounce her name, but she was the first woman in the world, in Britain, to set up a shelter for women. It was very much by accident. It wasn't. She didn't set out to set it. It just evolved over time from a coffee morning type setup to being what we now have today as, shelter for so-called battered women. But she knows the real story. And she knows that there are many women who are in these homes who have been the agitators and the deliberate annoyance of guys or men in the relationship. And it's something has caused them to snap, and quite rightly so. If you're being nagged by someone, they're annoying you or they're disparaging you, and some people will react by either barking at that person, shouting at that person. And in some cases, if a woman has slapped him in the face or hit him for whatever reason, he's struck back, especially in the home. If he's outside, he'll sit there and take the beating because society doesn't expect a man to hit that woman. And when that woman is hitting that man and slapping him in the face, nobody comes to his rescue. Nobody. But the moment he lays his hand on her, that's it. You're going to be beaten up because of misguided guys. Someone can't just go and say, "Oh, what happened, mate?" And are you both okay? No, he will immediately go after the guy, wanting to restrain the guy, this and that, even though he's trying to put his view to the reason why he's hit her, because she may have hit him first. Doesn't matter. There was a show in India where a woman, for whatever reason, slapped. I think it was a contestant in the face. And with him being slapped in the face, he slapped her back. The one thing that was quite telling, the look, she had her hand to her face, and the shock on her face was very telling. She wasn't expecting it. She saw it. She could slap this guy, but wasn't expecting to be slapped back on national TV. The moment that guy slapped her, all the male staff on the show jumped him. And he said, "What are you doing? Why are you hitting me? Why are you beating me up? What have I done? She slapped me first." And that's the point. This is the way that women behave. The entitlement of women. When you take a woman out, you're expected to pay for the meal. There is, it's just, this is what women expect. Valentine comes along. They expect flowers and chocolates and stuff and all this kind of nonsense. Why? Valentine is not for men. It's about men spending money on these bitches. So when it comes along, I'm so happy I'm not involved in it. But you men, young men, have got to see what you're doing. Don't waste your money. 20, 30, 40, 50, £100 on these women. They don't buy you nothing. Even Father's Day. The feminist movement is saying Father's Day, well, what's the purpose of Father's Day? It needs to be got rid of. Only Mother's Day is more important. Father's not important. They contribute nothing. They're only sperm donors. Even Father's Day, you've got stupid mangina men who've been brought up by a single woman. And they say, I didn't have a father in my life other than my mother. My mother was my father and my mother. This is what they're talking about. Extraordinary. But let me get back to the story of the scientists. So, Oxford University extends exam times for women's benefit, which is absolutely true. So, although it's extended, the men get the same amount of time as well. It was done primarily for women, so they could complete all the paperwork, all the exam, because they can't work under pressure. Italy, free or cheaper university for STEM female students. So if a woman decides to go into the STEMs, it's going to be free for her or cheaper. Holy shit. Where's this gender equality that I keep hearing about? And how are women oppressed in this day and age? Melbourne Uni, STEM positions for women only. Are you serious? That's ridiculous. Many places administration wants 50% irrespective of merit. 2-in-1 faculty preference for women on STEM tenure track. Only adult able-bodied males may be called upon for forced or compulsory labour. This is what you men need to understand, that you are only going to be needed for labour in the future. Pure labour. Digging up the streets, laying cables in the ground, taking out the dustbins and the rubbish. Janitors. That is what you are going to be, just pure labourers. Discrimination against men shall not be considered discrimination. This is Istanbul Convention or something. ERC plans give priority to specific policy objectives. 40% gender quotas. In theory, this means 40% funds, just 10% of people, rare among top authors. So this is a graph showing the career path of men and the career path of women. When the BBC contacted the professor, he said, people said that physics is sexist, physics is racist. I made some simple checks and discovered that it wasn't, that it was becoming sexist against men, and so said so. So last month, this female so-called scientist, she believed that unconscious bias against women prevented them from getting jobs in physics research. So you see, the thing is, women are not satisfied with the fact that there's literally 70 to 80% of primary schools are female teachers. Secondary schools are very, higher secondary schools are basically exactly the same. University, 40% are male, 60% women. The NHS is literally 80%, I believe, female. Nurses are 90%, if not more, female. We hear this nonsense that women are discriminated in constantly. Okay. I mean, jobs like firemen. Okay. Why aren't we seeing more women in those positions? If that's the case. In Australia, a fireman, was not happy that they wanted to get more women into the job. They reduced the standard of the pass mark. Yet she passed her exam, both the paperwork and the physical, at the same level as the men. And she said it's ridiculous that they've now dropped the standard in order to allow women to come in at a much lower standard. What's the point of having standards? What's the point of having measurements? What's the point of being accurate? This is where I believe, dangers will start coming through in the future. A major study published in 2012 in the US showed that science faculty members. So what they do, this is the BBC, they'll bring out so-called nonsense to trying to counter what this guy is saying, even though he's telling the truth and he's being honest. It doesn't matter. You can't tell the truth, especially if it's not inclusive and it helps women. You must help women at all times. You mustn't show their faults. You mustn't show their faults. Showed that science faculty members rated identical job applications more highly when presented to them with a male name rather than a female name. Scientists reacted to the professor's presentation on social media, complaining about discrimination they had suffered in the course of their work. Who cares? I'm not reading their nonsense. Yeah, we've got pussy there. The organisation which currently has its first ever woman director general, said in an earlier statement the organisers were not aware of the content of the talk prior to the workshop. A spokesman confirmed that there was a video recording of the presentation. Senior managers should be deciding whether to release part of it or all of it, it said. Senior managers would decide whether to release parts or all of it, it said. And then it goes on about Professor Hammett, who resigned Nobel laureate, who resigned in 2018 because he was doing a lecture in South Korea. That the trouble with girls in labs was that when you criticise them, they cry, which is what he was telling the truth about. But it doesn't matter. You've still got the bitches that came out talking nonsense and complaining. I'm just trying to see if that, yeah. So, yeah, this is the state of where we are today as men. If you don't get yourself prepared, gentlemen, you are going to be subservient to women even more than you are now. You know, they clearly women don't appreciate. They don't give a damn what has been produced for them or for humanity in general. They're not interested. They don't care. All they're bothered about is getting all those positions of power from the top of businesses right down to managers. Then once they've got all those positions of managers, the rest, the bottom will be just workers, doing the physical work. And they'll be in their office, in their air-conditioned office, messing up in the office, not really knowing what they're doing. They're just bumbling along, literally bumbling along. But because companies have got to reach their quota of women in the office, they have to employ these people. Anyway, something interesting. This is another example of where we've got to be careful as men. All right. Anyway, thanks for listening.